So today we're taking like a basic snickerdoodle and we are amping it up to like the next level and beyond by making it with brown butter, which is not just as simple as taking any snickerdoodle recipe and just swapping out brown butter. There are a couple technical changes that did have to be made to make this work. We're going to be starting with 1 cup of unsalted butter, and we are going to go ahead and brown this. So grab yourself a medium to large size skillet. You want it to have a nice light bottom because that's going to make it a lot easier for you to see when the butter has browned. Let's add our butter and let's take this over to the stovetop. We're going to heat this over medium heat and we're just going to keep stirring it while it cooks. It's going to start foaming and sizzling, and that's just the water cooking out of it. Keep it moving, that way it doesn't burn. And once that sizzling and popping stops, you're going to notice some browning happening. You see those little brown bits there? Once you've accumulated a fair bit of them, go ahead and remove this from the stovetop immediately. We'll pour this into a heat-proof mixing bowl. Don't burn yourself. Make sure you scrape that pan to get any brown bits out of there. Now, super important and a little bit annoying, you do have to wait for the brown butter to cool before you can go any further with this recipe, because if it's too warm, it's going to melt your sugar. You're going to have a greasy mess on your hand. Those cookies are just going to spread all over your oven. This has been waiting a bit of time and my brown butter has cooled. Mine has actually started to turn a little bit opaque, which is fine. You don't need to re-solidify it, but you don't want the bottom of the bowl to feel warm. That's just super important before you proceed. At this point, you'll also want to get your oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We had to wait for the brown butter to cool down, but you don't have to chill the snickerdoodle dough. You can if you want to, though. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so butter's nice and cool, so we'll add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. It's like 150 grams. And we'll also add a 1/2 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. This is 100 grams. I love the balance of the granulated and the brown sugar here. So we'll go ahead and stir these together, nicely combined. Things should already be smelling pretty amazing. Okay, and now we can add our eggs. You'll need 2 room temperature large eggs for this recipe. Crack them in a separate dish. Number 1, number 2. Oh, almost lost that one. Wow, that was messy. Room temperature is important because we don't want to use cold eggs. They will sort of seize the dough and make it tricky for everything to combine nicely. So here we're also going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I don't go crazy with vanilla in this recipe. Like a 1/2 teaspoon is less than I use in a lot of my recipes. This is intentional because I want the brown butter flavor to really shine. And vanilla is an excellent accent, but it can become a little bit too much, believe it or not. So we're just using a 1/2 teaspoon here. We did all that work to brown the butter. We want to taste that brown butter. See that little brown sugar clump? Just smash it with your spatula or your spoon if you ever see one. Firmly packing your brown sugar, even if you're using a scale, is important because it just gives you a head start on breaking up those brown sugar lumps. Let me get a different bowl here. And we are going to add some all-purpose flour, 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour to be precise. What's that, 343 grams if I'm not mistaken. And then we'll need 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is a classic snickerdoodle ingredient. So in order to get that, subtle snickerdoodle tang, you need it. You can't really get around using cream of tartar. So I don't have a good substitute suggestion if you don't have it. I know substitutes exist, but cream of tartar is just really classic and necessary for the flavor. We'll also add a teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of table salt, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And a lot of times I'll add the spices in with melted butter if I'm melting butter. Again, I didn't want the cinnamon to overpower the brown butter, so I want the flavor like present, but I just wanted just a hint of it in the dough itself, so it goes in with the dry ingredients so that it's there, but not super strong. Just a little touch that deepens the flavor and, keeps it cozy. That's what I was aiming for with this recipe. It's like a great recipe to make on like a rainy or stormy day. The leaves are falling, it's raining, and you're in your kitchen making brown butter snickerdoodles. It's heaven. Okay, we're going to gradually add the dry ingredients to the wet. I do this in like 4 or 5 parts. Today's recipe can be made completely by hand without a stand mixer or even an electric mixer. So that is a really nice plus, but if you try to add the flour too quickly, you're going to have a bad time and wish you had used a mixer. Can't get over how good this smells. Wasn't it Emerald who used to talk about like smell-o-vision? I don't know if I'm dating myself or aging myself, but my dad used to watch Emerald when I was a kid. I used to remember him talking about smell-o-vision. I wish I had that for you. Like, it's 2025. Why don't we have smell-o-vision yet? Make this smell into a candle. So once we get all this flour combined, we're going to make our cinnamon sugar topping and start scooping and rolling. But this dough is chillable. So if you want your cookies to be a little bit thicker or you just aren't ready to bake them right away, you can cover the dough and chill it for as little as 30 minutes or probably up to 3 days. I've chilled it 24 hours, but I think 3 days would be fine. Just know that when you get it out of the fridge, it's going to be hard to scoop, and sometimes the dough can seem a little bit crumbly, so it's harder to work with. So my preference is to not chill it more than an hour, but you can. We'll probably do a batch right away and then a batch after 30 minutes so you can see the difference. So for the cinnamon sugar topping, we're just going to do 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, it's 50 grams, and 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. We'll whisk these together. It's classic, good old snickerdoodle rolling topping, what do you call it? Just the sugaring part. So I scoop these cookies by level 1.5 tablespoon scoops. And to make the cookies nice and even, let's add a little more dough. Just gonna roll it between your hands to make a nice smooth ball. And then we'll roll it in our cinnamon sugar. And if your dough is super soft and you're having a little trouble working with it, I would actually recommend covering it and chilling it for 30 to 60 minutes because your butter may have just been a touch too warm. Now these cookies are going to need to bake in your 350° Fahrenheit preheated oven for about 9 to 11 minutes. You don't want to overbake them. In fact, opt to just slightly underbake them and let them finish cooling completely on the baking sheet. That way they stay nice and soft and chewy. Right, so there's some cookies, no chilling. And here we have some after an hour chill. You can see they just spread less and they're a little thicker. Both are delicious. I just want you to know your options. I spent a lot of time testing your options, so I feel like I should take the time to tell you about them. Let the cookies cool completely on their baking sheet, assuming you slightly underbaked them. Otherwise, move them to a cooling rack as soon as you're able. That is how you make these brown butter snickerdoodles, perfect for fall. In my biased opinion, better than anything pumpkin, but I do have some good pumpkin stuff coming up for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this one, make sure to check out my classic snickerdoodles, and I'll see you next time. You can really taste the brown butter. You're gonna like this one. Oh! That scared me. Scared me too. Sorry. Bam. Sorry, I have to taste it. So we're going. I thought you were getting a I have to say it, set it up. May I? Wow,
See, I thought we were already here.